rich who agreed for power.
Tunajipanga hapa Central Province, tunajipanga kwa hivyo.
Unafikiri utafanya nini? Ndio unasema maneno inaenda unataka kuwa president wa Kenya. And you are a vice president. Kwa ujuzi wake na ushenzi yake, ni lazima atake Kibaki.
Welcome to Impact Radio. Today's podcast is a special presentation to my brother Eugene Wamalwa, who is also the Minister for Justice. This is NZ Wasika NC from Baltimore, Maryland, United States of America. When young and promising leaders emerge on the national stage, Kenyans, me included, we wish and we hope that these young guys do better than the old folks that we've always had. One such a good leader, number one, is Mr. Abdikadir Hussein Mohammed. Another good example for a young leader, upcoming leader, is Eugene Wamalwa. And of course, my personal favorite, Mr. PK, Mr. Peter Kenneth, the MP for Gatanga. The reason why I'm doing this podcast is to talk to Mr. Wamalwa because of the reports I read in the newspapers last week. I'm being told that while the big boys were meeting at the high table to talk about coalitions and mergers, I'm told Eugene Wamalwa needed a babysitter. So Mr. Ruto and Mr. Kenyatta were gracious enough to send Mr. Kato Olemetito to make sure Mr. Wamalwa does not leave the house, to make sure that, because Wamalwa is a kid, so that he stays in the house. This is so embarrassing, to say the least, but I don't blame Mr. Kenyatta or Mr. Ruto for making such a move. And this is why. When asked by Citizen TV to explain, to define himself, this is how Mr. Wamalwa responded.
I think Eugene Wamalwa is a simple boy from Saboti at the Photo Motel.
Mr. Wamalwa says he's a simple boy from Saboti. He's a simple boy from Saboti. I'm here to tell Mr. Wamalwa that small boys don't sit on the high table with men. And this is perhaps precisely why the men confine him to his little playroom so he doesn't spoil the party. Since becoming the Minister for Justice March this year, almost everything Mr. Wamalwa has said and done, almost every move he's made, there's absolutely no doubt it reinforces the perception he needs time to mature before he hangs out with big men. And that's what happened. Before accepting his cabinet position, Mr. Wamalwa did not understand what Mr. Kibaki and Mr. Kalonzo were looking for. This is what they were looking for in the Minister for Justice. They were looking for someone without independence of mind. They were looking for a stooge. They wanted a man who appeared to be sensible to the general public, but the one that's not principled enough to stand by the truth. They wanted someone who could stand by criminal suspects, the two criminal suspects, but without the will to stand by our new constitution. In retrospect, I have to say that it's clear Eugene Wamalwa was a perfect selection for the president and the vice president. That bothers me, and it bothers a lot of Kenyans, because this guy is being used to betray millions of Kenyans. This guy is being used to curtail the justice that Kenyans have always yearned for a very long time. This is what Baraka Muluka says about Mr. Wamalwa.
One of the things that the Abaluya people do not believe in is sharing a common platform with somebody who is perceived to be having blood dripping from their fingers, even if that fellow is your brother.
But I may disagree with Baraka Muluka on so many issues, but people of Mlambe, these are loyal people of Mlambe, share the same beliefs. And this is what precisely, I'm going to summarize what Mr. Muluka is saying to Mr. Wamalwa. One, Mr. Wamalwa, in Luya land, you don't bring Maina Njenga to a family party. Number two, there are allegations that Mr. Ruto and Mr. Kenyatta have blood on their hands, and you don't invite these two men to dine with your children. Number three, he's also saying, Mr. Wamalwa, no matter how desperate you are, no matter how lonely you are, he's saying you don't hang with Mr. Biwott. You don't eat with Mr. Biwott. You don't share the same table with Mr. Biwott. You don't share the same car with Mr. Biwott. You do not be seen in public with people the likes of Mr. Biwott.
Impact Radio International.
Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka must stop interfering with the Ministry of Water.
Wakati Ruto alisema nataka kuwa rais, kura yangu ilipotea Rift Valley. Sasa itarudi because najipanga na Ruto.
This is Impact Radio.
You know these politicians, sometimes they think in our head there is nothing except count.
Impact Radio International.
In one of my future podcasts, I'm going to feature Mr. Kalonzo because I think Mr. Kalonzo needs a lot of help. He's a man who's been in Nairobi in Parliament for more than 20 years, but Mr. Kalonzo behaves just like Mr. Eugene Wamalwa. He's a guy who needs direction. He's lost on the national stage. But in the meantime, we're trying to do better. Kenyans are trying to do better as we head to the elections. When you browse the news this week and you look at the social media, there's no doubt a lot of people are concerned that there are a lot of people who kind of are ticked off by what Wamalwa is doing. And I'm one of those folks. And I believe Mr. Wamalwa needs help. But I don't believe Mr. Wamalwa, Mr. Muskari Kombo is not the guy that will give you the advice that you need. When a young guy takes a wrong turn, this is what I say to them. And I'm going to say this to you, Mr. Wamalwa. You've got brains, my brother. You got to act like you got some sense. Based on what you've done so far last week and a few months since you became the Minister for Justice, Mr. Wamalwa, you're acting like you got no sense. And it's time to change. You may have a future in politics, who knows? But you gotta change. You've headed the wrong direction. Please check back soon for another episode of Impact Radio Podcast. And thank you so much for joining us today. My name is NC Wasike NC. Adios.
From Baltimore and Washington, D.C.
Impact Radio International. Eugene Wamalwa is like a political guy.
He's got completely a political background.
Inarudisha mifumo mingi kama ile Kenya has raised eye-pounding and untested and inexperienced political player.